Well, recently there have been a lot of debates and discussions amongst photographers on the new Phase 1 XF body, why that camera only has a single focus point. A lot of people don't understand why Phase 1 made that decision, and I believe that they made the right decision. The XF body was built from the ground up, and there's very good engineering reasons why they did what they did. I mean, after all, focus has to be accurate, fast, and reliable, and that's exactly where Phase 1 excels. Now, this camera right here is a Phase 1, but it's not the XF body yet. It's still the 645DF, but it doesn't really matter for the explanation purposes. Next to that, I have a DSLR, which just happens to be a Nikon, but it could as well be a Canon for that matter. And we all know that with these cameras, you have a multitude of focus points. And actually, you could select them in the back through the viewer, and then use the cursors up and down to select which focus point you want to have in your frame. It's very handy, as you can apply the 2/3 rule and all that without having to reframe. With a Phase 1 camera, no matter if it's the XF or if it's the DF645, you only have one single centralized focus point, and that's it. Now, that sounds a bit awkward, isn't it? Because if you start shooting with it, then you need to focus on the eyes, let's say, for a portrait, and then you shoot, and then you have a dead center picture. Not something we really like to have. We love to have the 2/3, the golden rule. So actually you would have to focus on the eye and then kind of reframe. And you could lose some of your focus while doing so. But that is just a very simple drawback, and it takes a bit of exercise to get it right. But that's not the point of the discussion. The discussion is all about why did Phase 1 do what they did. Now, with any camera, and I'm talking about a mirror-based camera, be it the Phase 1 or be it a DSLR, light comes through the lens, it hits the mirror, which then reflects the light up into the prism and then into the eye. That's the path the light is traveling through the camera, regardless if it's a Phase 1 or a Nikon or Canon for that matter. It doesn't really matter. That means that along that path, there has to be a sensor to detect the contrast or the phase, because those are the methods that are used to focus. So the camera will hunt focus basically based on contrast. So if I was to draw a white line on a black wall and I would focus on that line, then inside my camera, my sensor, my focus sensor would actually pick up that line, and it would start to adjust my focus length through the motor until it has a very nice and crisp line separation between the black and the white. Now, Canon, Nikon, all of them, they have a very good focusing sensor built in their bodies, but they have carved it up. They made it up into little partitions, and depending which selected area you use when you're using selective focus, you can move the point up and down with the cursors, then they will use a subset of that big sensor, focusing sensor. By the way, the focusing sensor is not the same as the image sensor, for all clarity. So really, they don't really exploit the full capability of all the real estate of pixels on that focusing sensor, meaning that the focus will not be that accurate. Phase 1, on the other hand, is using a single centralized focusing point, and they have inside a 1 megapixel focus sensor. They use the full sensor, meaning that they can very accurate and refine to the smallest detail the focus, just because of that fact. And that is one of the reasons why they stayed with a single focus point. They did not want to give in on quality and sharpness, which is something that will happen with a DSLR. There is no way that a DSLR can achieve that level of focus and detail. The other point, obviously, is that Because it's a centralized focusing point, it goes through the middle of the lens. And we all know that the optical specifications of optics and lenses are such that the central location on the lens is where the best performance is to be achieved of that lens. And that's also why Phase One has opted to use the centralized focus point. So I can hear all of you saying now, well, but that's annoying because now I need to aim at the eye if I want to make a portrait, and then kind of reframe my camera, and I could lose the focus easily, especially if I was to be shooting at 1.4 or 2.8. And yes, you have a point. It's a bit of an annoyance to have to do that, but with some practice you get used to it. But I think it is still much better to have accurate focus than just that little annoyance of I want to get to 2/3 or the golden cut or whatever you want to call it for a portrait. Now don't forget that Phase One comes with bags of 50 megapixels and 100 megapixels and 60 and 80 megapixels, so you got plenty of real estate of image pictures that actually would allow you to do the proper cut as such. So I hope I could help you a bit with understanding why Phase One did what they did. Now, it's not the end of the story, and to be very honest, I would be very surprised if Phase One did not start to do some other work with mirrorless cameras. They already have a feature on their new XF body with the new IQ3 bags, whereby you have a electronic shutter. So basically, you could have live view on the back of your camera, and I suspect that we will see very soon a feature that you can tap on any area on the back to select the focus, because they might start using the image sensor for that focus if you're shooting with live view or mirrorless mode. So watch out, because I think it's coming, and that would be the thing that would take away all the criticisms of all those that do believe they need to have multiple focusing points. Now don't forget, they will still have the same issue. The best point is still the center point because of the optics of the lens. Thank you for watching.